What's up YouTube, this is GalacticGod, and I'm coming at you today with the deck profile of the Chaos Archfiend deck that I used in my most recent duel videos. So if you haven't already checked out those duels, please do so. I shall have links to them down here at the bottom of the screen in annotations. So that way you guys can see how the deck works and comes together. And then you can come back and take a look at this deck list. Now really, in all honesty, this deck was inspired by this card right here, Snatch Steal. When we were doing the Battle Pack Epic Dawn kind of tournament duels that we had over at my house, my buddy had actually pulled 2 Snatch Steals and had both of them in his deck, since there is no limited or forbidden list when you're playing a Battle Pack duel. And the strength and power of this card was really quite amazing, and it kind of had me kind of go back and kind of think about other cards that had similar effects, which brought me to this card right here, Falling Down. Now, Falling Down is kind of the Snatch Steal for Archfiends themselves. You can't activate this card unless you have an Archfiend on the field, and if the Archfiend leaves the field, this card is destroyed. During each of your opponent's standby phases, you take 800 points of damage. So instead of having your opponent gain life points, you lose life points, which is, kind of a little bit of the opposite of Snatch Steal, but you still get the effects. So the trick really to using this card is to use it in one turn and then get rid of it. So the way you would do that would be to go into a fast Synchro or fast Exceed. Exceed being the most obvious since there are no real tuners that are Archfiends. So the best way to utilize this card, I thought, was to put it in an Archfiend deck where I can rapidly get out Archfiends, snag over their monster, and then go into a quick Exceed. Now, a lot of you know you can't really do that in a traditional Archfiend deck. So what I did was I took the Archfiends that I kind of thought had the most versatility and would allow me to kind of make these quick plays as fast as possible. So what I did was I grabbed a couple of the Synchro monsters that are Archfiends, ThoughtRuler Archfiend, which is really kind of like a good, crazy boss monster. Once you get him on the field, you can't be targeted. It's really cool to have him there. And of course, I went into Red Dragon Archfiend just because he's so friggin' big. A lot of people aren't expecting him to come out when you go into your, your Synchro Crime and bring him out. And then I've used these Archfiends over here in the main deck, just 5 of them, which is really kind of a low count. But there's so many tutors that help get them out in the deck that, it seems like I'm always dropping these Archfiends out. And so you don't really need a high amount of Archfiends in your deck because you really just need the ones that are going to allow you to utilize your Falling Down card and then go into your big monsters. Okay, so let me kind of give you the deck list and kind of give you an idea of how it works. Okay, so for the monsters, we're playing 2 copies of TerrorKing. At one point, I did have 3 copies of this in the deck, but I felt like I didn't need it. I felt like I kept drawing it when I didn't want to. Really, what I want to do is keep it in the deck and bring it out with Summoner Monk, which I'll get to in just a minute. And then we have 3 copies of Desrook. Desrook has a cool effect where if your TerrorKing will be destroyed, you can discard this from your hand to special summon it back, which is kind of cool and can come in handy in a little bit of the duels that I played when I was testing it out. But usually what I want to do with the Desrook is to bring it out with my tour guide from the Underworld. A lot of people were really hating seeing tour guide in an Archfiend deck. I don't know why. Tour guide was really meant to bring out fiends, and Archfiends are fiends, so I don't really understand the reasoning for the hatred for it, other than I guess it is a very meta card, but it works for fiend decks, and this is a fiend deck. From there we have 2 Summoner Monks. This is to go ahead and bring out our TerrorKings. Summoner Monk, I think, is a really great underutilized card. I use him in a lot of my decks, as I know a lot of you guys have noticed. From there, I also want to go into Synchro plays, so I have 1 Guldfaxe. This allows me to go into, a Red Dragon Archfiend, a ThoughtRuler, or any of the other level 8 monsters real fast, real easy with my Summoner Monk. Since there is a remove from play engine and a lot of lights and darks in the deck, we're playing 1 Dimensional Alchemist. For those of you who don't know, Desrook itself is a light monster. So once you go into your tour guide and you bring out your Desrook and you exceed up, once these exceed materials go to the graveyard, you have a light and dark in the graveyard to go to an instant chaos play. Of course, we got our Sangan. We're playing 2 copies of Effect Veiler. And then for kind of our boss deck monsters, we have our Gorz, 1 Chaos Sorcerer, and of course BLS. This allows us to kind of complete the chaos circle of the deck. For spells, we're playing 3 copies of Falling Down, 3 copies of Pot of Duality. Some people really don't like 3 dualities in their deck, but I think in this one it works, mostly because we do have Summoner Monk, so if we draw into it and we don't need it, you can always ditch it for Summoner Monk. Plus, we don't have a high monster count, so you want to be able to dig into your deck, get the cards you need, and set up for your next play the next turn. We also have 3 copies of MST, 1 Forbidden Lance, 1 Allure of Darkness, Heavy Storm, Dark Hole, and Monster Reborn to kind of round out the spell cards. Okay, so for traps, we have 2 Torrential Tributes, 2 Solemn Warning, 2 Fiendish Chains, a Mirror Force, and a Bottomless Trap Hole. Okay, so for the extra deck, synchro-wise, we have 1 Black Rose, Stardust, Scrap Dragon, of course our Red Dragon, and our ThoughtRuler. This allows us to go into quite a bit of options for our level 8. Usually I try and go into an Archfiend just so that my Falling Downs then become live, because I do have an Archfiend on the field. For the Exceeds, we have Acid Golem, Zen Mains, Leviair, Leviathan Dragon, and number 20 Giga Brilliant to kind of give us a good wide range, for our Exceed plays with our rank 3s. For rank 4, we have Utopia, Photon Butterfly, Maelstroke, Gem-Knight Pearl, and of course number 16 Shockmaster. This card can really destroy people's decks when you're able to get it out. When you get it out against Chaos Dragon, they have a hard time. Some of them kind of want to cry when they see it. Just none of their effects really become live at that point. Depending on what deck you want to play or what deck you're playing against, depending on, lets you help decide, if you want to stop spells, traps, or monster effects. You can stop any one of those for 3 turns. You just got to keep them alive after that point. It's really kind of a cool, crazy card that a lot of people have trouble with. So, you can call spells out, then set all your traps, and they can't heavy or MST or anything like that. And then they have to try and, destroy this monster, and you have all this back row to stop them from doing it. It's really kind of crazy and kind of cool to get out. Okay, I'm going to go over some of the quick little combos of the deck. Let's say your opponent already has a monster out. You go ahead and bring out your Summoner Monk. Put him in defense position. Use his effect, discard a spell to go ahead and special summon out your TerrorKing Archfiend. From there, you can go ahead and play Falling Down, grabbing their level 4 monster. You now have 3 level 4s on the field, so what you can do is you can go ahead and overlay all 3 of these monsters right here to go right into your number 16 Shockmaster. This gives you quite a nice good advantage as you've snagged probably whatever good monster they had over there, and now you can start negating effects essentially for free for 3 turns. It's really kind of good and lets you control the field quite easily. You could also keep your Summoner Monk out and go into any kind of rank 4 exceeded that you might need at the time as well, so that's kind of cool. And then go ahead and use Summoner Monk's effect the next turn if you can. So let's say your opponent thinks he's pretty boss and go ahead and plays his tour guide. He brings out his Sangan in defense mode. He's kind of like, I'm going to get my Sangan effect off. Ha 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 ha. Well, what you could do is you can go ahead on your turn, bring out your tour guide, bring out Desrook, play Falling Down, grab his Sangan, and then go ahead and overlay to bring out one of your Exceed monsters. You've now made him lose his Sangan's effect. You can then go ahead and detach your monster. Attack over there is attack again. It can be quite handy and useful. Okay, and there you have it. This was my Chaos Archfiend deck. I know it's not really a traditional Archfiend deck in the sense of I'm using Pandemonium and all the Archfiend monsters. For some reason, although I've played that deck many a times, I've just never really been able to get it to work for me. Every time I try and draw with that kind of a deck build, my hands are always super inconsistent and I'm never able to really do anything. So I really wanted to just kind of make a deck that utilized and focused around getting the most benefit out of this card right here, Falling Down. And that's what I think I've kind of tried to do. It's got an Archfiend engine in it and a Chaos engine in it, and that's really kind of what it is. It's real built on just utilizing Falling Down to its biggest advantage. And that's kind of what the purpose of this version of an Archfiend deck is, and kind of what I hope to accomplish with it. In the comment section below, let me know what you think of my Chaos Archfiend kind of deck build as it is. And I guess that's it for now. This is GalacticGod, out.